So I'm back. Thank you. So as I was talking, like one of the more popular sections, which will take a long time if I would discuss it in elaborate, and I would do that sometime in future if it's possible, and if I'm allowed to, like, is about Kali. And if you may know, like Kali is becoming one of the more dark images of sexuality or fetishes of New Age Wiccans, New Age gurus discussing about why you should not deal with Kali. She's so dark, she's so tamasic, and all this, all everything. Like, how would I put it? So I think discussing Kali becomes very important when it comes to discussing Tantra. And we all are aware of the two main trends of Tantra, that is the Kalikula and the Srikula. And Srikula being worshipping the, what do you say, Srividya, that is Lalita, or Shodashi, the third Mahavidya. There is one more secret Nilakrama, or worshipping of Tara, and the other of Kali, Kali as in Dakshina Kali. I just showed you the picture, the one you could see over here, like hanging. Yeah. So, like, Karalavadanam Ghoram Muktakeshim Chaturabhujam Kalikam Dakshinam Divyam Mundamala Vibhushitam. This is the main mantra, that is Sadyashinya Shirakharga Mahamardha Karambujam Abhayam Baradam Chaiva Dakshinardhu Panikam. Like the dhyan goes like this. So the very image of Kali is a bit scary for people, because the image goes like Karalavadanam Ghoram, like it is having the very ferocious face, Karalavadanam. Ghoram, she's ferocious. Mundamala Vibhushitam, like she's uh, dressed up with Mundamala, with all this skull, not skull, cut, severed human heads. And Kalikam Dakshinam Divyam, the one who has her right leg up, Dakshinam Divyam, the great, precious, and the divine one. Mundamala Vibhushitam, Sadhya Chinna Shirakharga, the one who has, like, has her in the left hand, like a immediately severed head, and a kharga, like a, if you could see the picture, it would be better. I think if you could see, or if you, there's a picture of Kali, it should be like that, like having cut off the head. So let me just see if I could find a picture while I'm talking with you. I would just show it. In the upper hand, there is this kharga, and Dakshina Panika is in her right feet, is on Shiva, and she has to, Shava Yugma is like your two babies hanging from the ear. She has her tongue hanging out and blood smearing from everywhere. It's like a very scary image that you see, and it's easy to imagine herself to be a very dark form of, violent form of goddess, like someone you should not deal with or something. But again, in Tantra, especially in Bengal, she is known as Adya Shakti. That is the first of the powers, the very first of the, and the very first of the beginning of the Shaktis whom we worship. So yeah, here is a, see, this is the image of Kali I was talking about. Like, she has her feet up, she has this abhaya, no fear, and she's surrounded with Shivas, yoginis, and everyone. She is bright, and she is like that. Okay, so the image is, this is from a traditional, what do you say, the British period. They were marketing things with images of gods and goddesses, and the same Kali is often strangely depicted like or a very sexually woke figure, as in You get what I mean. I'm not exactly sure who did this, but this pretty much sums up what Kali is not. Kali is not like this. Okay, Kali is like the one I showed you. And Kali is not your goddess of sexuality or a belly dancer or Kalima as seen in your pop series Supernatural and what was that, American Gods, where she is working as a bartender. Um, well, she's not like that, sadly. To many people's uh, very sad news for many people because they do want to imagine Kali like that and worship Kali as in, yeah, this is another peculiar explanation of how Kali has been portrayed in the West and how she is precisely not. Also, she does not have, okay, I just came across something even weirder, which is Kali Oracle. Like, I must show you this. Where is that? Um, yeah, this is the one. With horns and skulls, you see. Okay, these are not images of Kali, just to sum up. I have a friend who has painted wonderful images of Kali and how it depicts. I'm just showing you the images just to get rid of the terrible, terrifying, horrible paintings that I come across of Kali whenever you Google it. So there is this one friend of mine. Let me see. Yeah. So there are depictions, beautiful, beautiful depictions of Kali done through painting, and I will be showing you those right now. And I hope it's not an issue. Like if I show you these images, like as in by the organizer, I will just shut off this light. Yeah. You see, this is how we depict Kali over here. This is a yantra of Kali sitting. And this will be very soon published in this global Tantra book. And it's a very good work that has been done and like with the moon phases and everything. I'm showing these paintings because this is a painting by a friend of mine and he has done the paintings properly. I'm just looking into a proper Dakshina Kali picture by him. So if I could find one, I can just show you. Yes, see, this is also Kali. Can focus. Yeah, you see, like the idea of Kali is very different from how the West pictures it. And when we are talking about the Kali in their sexual form, I'm just looking at seeking the image. I'm not able to find it till now. Once I find it, I will show you. Yeah, it is here. Yeah. See if it can be focused. Yeah. Okay. You see. So there is chakras, and she is sitting at the top of the chakras and all these things. So there is this one beautiful book published from Nepal, and it was referred by Abhinavagupta, and then the manuscript was found, and a beautiful depiction of Kali is given there. The very opening Mangalacharan from Nepal's Kali Krama. Yam Shantakagni Kuharusthita Bhava Swarupam Somarka Vanhi Tripatha Madhya Samastham Chicheta Vishaya Vili in I'm doing it again. Yam Shantakagni Kuharusthita Bhava Swarupam Somarka Vanni Tripatha Madhya Samstham Chichetta Vishayaksha Vilina Bhavam Sadbhavam Vikalam Pranamami Kalim Swakalanta Sukastam Kalanta Kalani Kalam Khakalam Kamalarudham Nomi Srikala Sangitam. So this sloka kind of depicts the image of Kali, the Adya Shakti, the very first of the powers and the forces. Just a minute. Yeah. So the very Adya from whom the every form other Mahavidya follows. And not a dark form. Ya Shantakagni Kuharosthita Bhavaswarup. This Shantakagni in the great cremation ground The cremation ground depicts the very dissolution of this world, and in that great Mahatamas. Now, Mahatamas is not the same tamas as Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Like, this is getting into the three gunas of your Samkhya. Tamas is considered to be the lowest, darkest, the most negative and heavy. But here, tamas means absolute covering, like where everything has been concealed, everything has been absorbed back into consciousness. Because in darkness, in black, every color mixes. So in Kali is that dark color, all these possibilities get mixed up. So in that great tamas, in that great the very first light that manifests, Kuharosthita Bhava Swarupa. In that great tamas is this bhava situated, is this state, is this realization situated, located. Like Somarka Vanni Tripatha Madhya Samstham, it's between the three Vannis, that is Somarka Vanni, that is the three channels, our breath channels, Ira, Pingala, Sushumna, and it goes up in that Madhya, Sadbhava, Chichetta Vishayaksha Vilina Bhavam. So the one where you're the object of knowledge, your very process of knowledge and the knower, all these things becomes one. And Somarka Vanni become one, and everything is engulfed, is consumed, and it goes up. And in that place, Sadbhavam Vikalam Pranamami Kalim. So in that place where all this Kala has been consumed, the time has been, the time itself, the great time which is projecting this world, has been consumed. And over that, the Tattva that resides is Kali. So you see, it's not a bartender as some of the American pop shows would show you, like a very ferocious mad lady or a sex symbol as like that. It's the very reality's depiction itself. Now coming to the Kali, which becomes our pop culture, or the idea of Kali being ferocious. Now, I will be getting into a bit of Western craft and other ideas right now. You see, there are certain regional specialities, like when it comes to Bengal, Kali becomes more prominent. When it comes to a certain Ayodhya, Ram becomes prominent. When it comes to Kashi, Annapurna becomes prominent. When it comes to South India, some other deities become prominent, like Murugan, Lalita. So there are these regional things of deity worships. And all of these cultures try to see their deity as a supreme. But they do not remain deities as per, they become tattva or a principle or an idea which depicts this thing. And Kali is similarly seen like that in the Kali Kula Tantra. In Dasa Mahavidya, she is seen as the Adya, the very primordial force from which all other forces manifest, like Tara, Tripura, and everyone, but like gradually coming down from one to another. And in Vamakeshwari Mata, you see Kali as the one which ultimately engulfs the Shiva Shakti union and makes it into nothingness. So the very tantric depiction of Kali does not really suit you. Now there is this one Puranic definition of Kali, where after killing, like in Chandi also it comes, like after killing Raktavija and destroying the Asuras, her hunger does not come to an end, and she just keeps on moving, and Shiva lies down like that, and she steps on it and puts her tongue out like this, and you become that Kharga Munda and Kali comes into existence. That's the more popular Puranic depiction of a particular form of Kali, not exactly the Kali that is worshipped in Tantra. But yeah, it's a Puranic form of Kali which depicts a more untamed force. The thing with Puranas is it's a way of depicting your higher reality through like imagery, stories, like metaphors. It's a metaphorical way of discussing your tattvas. And the Puranic Kali is basically that kind of depiction, that the great hunger of consciousness, which only comes down in union with the essence. Like when it's in union with Shiva, it's okay. When it's out, it will be like grasping anything. But in the beginning, there was this great hunger, and from that hunger, did everything was everything born. It comes in Brihadarnak, and that hunger tattva, I have to get Brihadarnak to show you, is the knowing of death, because death consumes everything. Kali indeed, yeah, this is somewhere where the Western got right, that death is associated with Kali, but she's not a goddess of death. For that, we have Yama, and we are very happy with that. We don't have to worship Kali to be the goddess of death. She is the personification of the one who consumes the great death, Mahakal itself. Time is the one that kills everyone now. Mahakal is the one whose power is the time. Mahakal's power is Kala, the time, the transcendent and the phenomenal time that we experience. And he is the greatest death that can exist. The Kali Tattva is one which even engulfs that greatest death. Okay, in that way, she is death. So, not a lesser god of death that you can win over Kali, and no, you cannot. Like, this is the very Tattva where everything is existing and where everything is getting consumed. And therefore, she is Brahma Swarupini, because in that supreme consciousness, everything of the duality dies and takes birth and again rests. So it all dissolves. So Kali becomes a personification of the very first supreme consciousness. It is from that that everything emerges and it gets destroyed. So you really don't do Kali in a joke manner. Coming to worshipping Kali is done in Panchamakara. And it is done in Pratyaksha Kalpa. Like, you don't have a temple. Like, there is a certain country where there is a big Kali temple and they prefer you to be vegan or vegetarians. If you are a non-vegetarian, you're not allowed in Kali temple. That is absolutely against the attitude of a deity. Now, when you are worshipping a deity, every deity have their own favorite offerings. It's like a person, a human. Like, you might like something. Like, you probably hate having, say, green vegetables. There are some people who hate green vegetables. I don't like. There are people who hate it. So, like, you might hate green vegetable, or you might hate red meat. Okay. Now you come to my home and I force feed you red meat. You won't really like it. Or you might hate certain kind of fries and I force feed you that, you won't like it. It is like that. And there are certain foods you like and you want to be having those foods, and non-vegetarianism and Mahavidyas kind of go like that. Like, okay, they like meat and you have to offer them meat, and you cannot offer them paneer instead of meat because you think and your beliefs say that she cannot be a non-vegetarian. Well, and mothers cannot see their animals getting slaughtered. It's not like that. It's pretty much she already sees you as a dead person. So it's like, okay, it's okay if you're offering yourself. So there are depictions of this goat being the representative of kama, your sexual desires, and you're sacrificing that over there. But also there are depictions in tantras that you're supposed to sacrifice a goat that moves towards Kali and puts its head towards the harikat, the place of the sacrificial ground, and you're supposed to take and cut that and offer it to Kali. And then there are Panchamakara pujas. There is someone who posts it in public, so I'm showing you the Panchamakara puja gota of sacrifice, which is normally shouldn't be done, but because it's posted, so there is no point in not showing you people. So I'm just saying the Kali gota while I talk. I will just find it out. So just a minute. So what was I talking about? Yeah, in the goat meats and everything is being offered. Then there is this seat of the goddess which is made with the human skull, and you really don't give the wrong offerings to deities. That's a very big mess. For example, in case of Kali, we're supposed to strictly, in case of Devi basically, avoid holy basil tulsi, which is offered to Vishnu. Now, because you are a Vaishnavite or a Hare Krishna or someone and you think that offering holy basil is fine and then you face the wrath of Kali after being initiated, that's up to you. That's nothing that we can do. This brings us to a very interesting story, because few days back there was a person who told me that I was telling her that we should not offer this, and that person told me that they had a coven. Now, coven is basically a group of witches, a close circle of witches, and they worshipped and planted holy basil, believing that it would be protecting them. The only good thing happened is that it gave them some positive vibes, and that positive vibes was so positive that it ruined their entire coven, and now they're broken. So you really, and there was this one story where my teacher was telling me, one of my teachers, who clearly gave the wrong offerings to wrong deities and was stuck in an island for 3 days. So you don't really offer. There were people whose families were destroyed because they gave the wrong offerings, and you don't play with offerings. If you are a non-vegetarian, okay, and you like practice non-vegetarianism, you should not be trying to force fit your goddess or anyone who is practicing vegetarian non-vegetarianism to become a vegetarian in their practice. So this ethics does not work in a hypocritical way. Now, if you're a strictly vegetarian and if you're concerned about animal rights, because what happens in most places abroad is you are slaughtering the animal. Here slaughter is also done, but in a very different way. Like, it's not like you have a slaughterhouse, you go there, you cut, bring the meat. It's not done like that. It's done in person in a particular way where the cutting will be very painless. It's struck at the head where they will particularly sever the middle of block at some point like that. And there are several rules that it should be cut at one go. It should not be cut like the halal. You don't cut it over and you hang it up like the ways Islamics do. No, we don't do it like that. It's not a jhatka. You just cut it at one go. The blow should be so fast that the goat should not realize it. The head should fall towards the goddess. Tears should not come out. And all these things. I'm unable to find a picture. If I do, I will be able to show you. So, yeah, I might have found it already. So, it was like so, and you do the goat sacrifice in that manner, and then ultimately, once the goat has been sacrificed, then you offer it to the goddess using a candle or something. Let me see if I found. No, not yet. Huh. So with a candle and everything, then with all the offerings, and then you just do the rituals after that. The meat is taken as a Mahaprasada, the greatest of the prasadas. Now there are gradations of meat. There is a debate, like there is this mamsa, like the meat. Some say that there is Mahamamsa, which is the human meat coming from a cremation ground, like the burned dead body meat, which is the most favorite of goddess. And some say that it's pig meat, which is the most separate of goddess. It entirely depends on how a conjunction is done, whether we conjoin a word or whether we do not conjoin a word. So, but the Mahamamsa, Mahataila idea has been seen in Nepal's Tantra as well, where human meat, that is the human meat of a dead body, like from cremation ground, is brought and offered to goddess and even consumed. This would be really gory to imagine and talking about. Like, I know it's getting too much for some people, so I don't think that I should be talking about this much. But yeah, these are practices which is done in Kali. And if a person suddenly comes and tells you that he or she is initiating you into Kal Samkarshini, sitting in a meditation room and talking you about the mantra and saying that it's Mahachanda Ghoreshwari, that's name, and come on, let's chant, and you have been initiated, you clearly have not been, because you have not gone through this intense practices of Kalikula to enter into Kalikrama. And these practices are genuinely a part of it. It's not that it's not there. It's just for your stories. So this is something that is a big deal. So there is a krama of Kali. You get 1-lettered mantra, 3-lettered mantra, then Vidyaragi, 22-lettered mantra. You just don't go there, Guruji, give me Kali mantra, and he is like, okay, this is a 22-lettered Kali mantra I give you, or this is the Kala Samkarshini mantra I give you. No, it absolutely does not happen like that. You get a single mantra, a single lettered, or just a name. You complete Abhishekas, you become eligible to get the higher mantras, you listen to the higher mantras, and then you get a more higher mantra. Like, the rituals remain somewhat the same. I was talking about, I could not find the image, so I'm not getting into that. So like the mantras start just becoming bigger and bigger, and then smaller and smaller, and then again into 1 letter. So the very first Kali mantra, if someone comes and gives you the very last Kali mantra, you are being duped. You are clearly being duped. That too in a Zoom circle. So be careful about that. And then it comes to that certain big godman of India, like I'm not taking the name because he's big and a troublemaker. So, like, would say that I have met Kali giving me glass in the water, so I could not take that kind of name. Kali is a defined thing. Ah, again, the problem is you are mystifying Kali too much. No, Kali is not like that, and Kali is someone who is a goddess who is worshipped as Adya. Kali is one of the primordial forms and the primordial realities, but no, you don't see Kali in a human being because someone is ferocious or someone is mad at you or someone is going to kill you. There's also this idea that Kali will come and dance and kill all the enemies I have. She will remove the negativity. In Tantra, we have other things for that. You don't really expect to blast a nuclear bomb to kill a mosquito. Okay, so it's like that. You are bringing up a nuclear bomb to kill a mosquito in your home, detonating a nuclear bomb, or maybe a strong hydrogen, the strongest SAR bomb, I think the strongest one that is available. That's stupidity. So Kali is Brahma Vidya, the highest of the Vidyas. And for getting rid of negativity, we have the lower Vidyas. We have many cleansing techniques, and that does not include burning sage in a room because it is very popular among Vikas. So when a person is dealing with Kali, even in a Vika circle outside Tantra, what has to, as I mentioned, that any of the Mahavidyas need proper initiation. So when a person is dealing with Kali in Vika circles or other circles, they must be knowing what sort of tattva they're dealing with, or any of the Mahavidyas. Like Kali is your great hunger, great death, all these things. There's Bagalamukhi, who is very popular in Bengal in yellow, and she's Tamhini, like she brings top and she's Brahmastra, she's a weapon. There's Chinnamasta, who has a severed head. Dhumavati, who is like all the inauspicious things we have. So all these deities have a particular aspect, like they represent a certain way to approach the reality. Like we have someone known as Krodha Bhattaraka or Krodha Bhairava, Krodha Bhairava. Krodha Bhairava, Bhairava being the supreme Brahman, but it's not always peaceful. It's sometimes ferocious. It's destroying. So that's the great rage of God. So the rage of God is worshipped as Krodha Bhairava, who is used to control many entities. So getting deep into Tantra is like getting deep into occult practice. And who is better to understand Tantra than occultist? It's not about academicians. So this brings us to the practices of Kali. So in Kali Kula, there is something known as the practice in the cremation ground, Samshan Sadhana. So, and in one of the wonderful lectures given at Oxford University, a big scholar of Tantra said that from Netra Tantra, he read it literally loud, like he took it literally, that the Shivas, the foxes or the yoginis, would go and the sadhaka would be meditating over there. They would eat you up. Literally, he believed that he would eat you up, digest you, then again reassemble you, then have sex with you by initiating, and then initiate you. The best way into the heart of a yogini is through the mouth. And well, there is this another statement that Guru Linga Mukhe Datwad and all these things are there, that put the linga. Linga can literally mean genitals of the Guru in your mouth. And these are all codes. So the Guru Linga is actually our mouth, the Guru's mouth, through which the yoni becomes your ear, and your Guru comes to here and speaks the mantra, which becomes the Birja and Kit's foot. See, the meaning becomes very different in the tantric context. We just have a way of talking in a very explicit way. Similarly, the yogini thing, this is rather funny, like, yeah, the yogini thing and the Shava sadhana, two things, like the dead body sadhana and yogini. Because I mentioned the yogini, let me talk about the yogini thing. There's something called Shiva Bali. So you go to the cremation ground, after giving everything, you have many offerings, including tambula and everything. You feed the Shivas. You have to take the name of the goddess. They will come over there. Then you feed them to complete your sadhana. And you invoke the goddess over there who comes you. I told you that having sex and all these things, Maithuna Tattva. You perform the entire ritual after giving the Shiva Bali. Like you have done this thing, you have taken the approval because those are considered to be the mouths of the goddess. You have given the offerings. This offering represents certain aspects of you, the six ripus and all these things, that mada, moha, like your anger, your sexual interests, your disgust for other people, all these things, you put it in a form of a food. You offer it to invoke the Shivas or foxes and others who are eating it. You cross the thing, you do not look back. And then you get into the Maithuna Tattva Sadhana. That is the one I mentioned in previously. You can just go back and check it again, where you do the dhyana, japa, and all these things to ultimately get absorbed in the goddess. And this also means that when you are going to the Guru, cremation ground is the very house of the Guru where all your family attachments have been burned off. Like, you don't become a sannyasa, but you have had the nitya anitya vivek. You know what is permanent, you know what is not permanent. You know that all these things are not going to last, and we need a permanent solution of the goddess. So we are going to take the refuge of the goddess. So the yogini, being the Shiva, comes here and give the offering. Like, there are certain offerings that you do to accept someone as the Guru. The Guru accepts it, and then this Guru Linga Mukha, that all these things are coming, the statements which are said in a very explicit way. The Guru and the Guru Shakti sits there, you accept it, you have the offering of clothes and everything that you give. Accepts it, and then the Guru decides you're worthy, and the Guru gives you the mantra. Through the mantra, you learn to get into the inner circle of the yoginis through the different levels of Abhisheka. And this cremation ground has other esoteric meanings as well. It can be the puja, because initially Tantra was practiced in seclusion, in cremation grounds, and in very rare jungles and everything, where what would happen is people would be very normally dressed up. Then there will be these passages, surangas, and they would go down over there, draw the yantra, like this is a Kali yantra. So draw the yantra in a ground and put the flowers, do the puja, do the invocation japa. Then once it is done, in the like new moon night, there's no light over there. It's absolute darkness. The lighted candle, they do it. Once it's done, they wipe it out. They remove all the traces. Maybe some flowers or something will be remaining, or they usually remove and discard all those things. And then they would come up back, and no one would know that puja has been done. So it was like that, that the Guru would come there, you would sit in their secrecy, the other Kaulas will be surrounding you, but the other yoginis have already become there, and you will be initiated between them. So while the process of initiation happens, your entire ego body gets consumed through the Abhisheka and everything, and you will be surrounded by the other Tantrikas in a very small room. And it's like through dying, you get a new rebirth. You will be metaphorically killed, not literally killed, eyes tied up, a dark room, all these things. And you will be metaphorically killed, certain things will be done, and then you will be reborn in a new Kaula form. Things that has been scattered will be reassembled, you will be given new clothes, you will be given new kamandulu and new things, everything. And you will become a tantric person. You will lose your identity. So me being a Brahmin, we used to wear upavit, and it will be thrown away, and all this, there are lots and lots of ritual things that are happening. So this thing basically depicts a ritual which, being a great scholar and absolutely unaware of the traditions, thinking of them as utter nonsense and coming from other places and ignoring them, has made a big mess of it. So these are common messes that we do see, and this ends up having a very exotic idea of tantric academic scholarship, whether it is coming from Buddhism, whether it is coming from Jainism, whether it is coming from the West. Now, historicity is something that really messes Tantra. The idea of Tantra is not about whether deities are coming from, like, certain practice may come from Vajrayana, certain practice may come from this, but the religion comes later, because the religion idea is a very, very political idea. The idea of Tantra lies in the occult. And this is somewhere we have to go deeper. So before I get into occult, let me finish off the Savasadhana, the dead body. So people do have another fetish about dead body, that and we have lots of movies about it, even in Bengali, that they would do the sadhana on the dead body in the middle of the night, and the dead body would wake up, talk with you, it will eat you up if you don't tie it up, and blah, 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 blah. It's dramas. Nothing like that happens. There are many kinds of dead body ideas, some symbolic, some physical. Yeah, there are certain dead bodies, and it's written down that you got to get dead body that has been dead due to an accident, that has been dead due to a lightning strike, that has been, but you cannot get dead bodies of a poor person, you cannot get dead bodies of someone who has been a slave to the woman, you cannot get dead body of a Brahmin, you cannot get dead body of this person, that person, so on, like so many restrictions. So once you get a perfect dead body, in very secrecy, you will be taught the ritual. You have to sit over it. You have to do the sadhana. There will be certain things happening, like you will be getting signals of the goddess. If you don't get that, you have to change the position and again start it. You have to offer certain things to the body. And ultimately, when it is done, there are certain rituals when you complete it, and it is done. So there is this one person, I think I read the name Brahmananda, or what was the name? Did I forget the name? So there is this, okay, Sarvananda. So there was Sarvananda Thakur who actually did this dead body sadhana and attend Brahma Siddhi, Brahma's darshan in, not Brahma, that is Kali's darshan in overnight. Nigamananda Paramhansha also did the Samshan sadhana. Samshan sadhana is a very another esoteric thing. You get into the samshana in the like you started when the sun is setting, and with the deepening of the night you keep the rituals on, and with it you invoke someone, you do some rituals, then another phase you do some rituals, meditating, doing all those things, and you do it alone, like no one is supposed to see you, and there is a small light, and maybe one chitta is burning, that is a dead body, or a funeral pyre will be burning, you can see that, not in fire, it's just red light, like calm down wood, you will be burning that, you will be sitting over that. For the whole night, you will be doing japa by drawing the circles. If any danger comes, you will invoke your guru. And by the end of the Samshan sadhana, goddess will come to you. But there is a part when the Samshana wakes up, cremation ground wakes up, and Samshan Bhairava and Samshan Bhairavi starts to walk over there. And that's the time the Samshana becomes a very horrifying place. Like the experience I personally have is there will be a sudden chilling wind flowing, dogs and foxes will be barking, there will be vultures screeching, and all these things will be happening over there. And that is the time you know that goddess has arrived, and you have to continue your japa, not getting up from the asana you are sitting in. And goddess will come to you in a very ferocious form. You have to calm her down and then ask her, like, you have to do certain mantras, that this is the form I want to see you, blah, 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 blah. And she will grant you boons. This is the very game of this three samshan and all these sadhanas. Nothing very, yeah, it's kind of exotic again, like, but in a different manner, not in a very homely, friendly manner. So as I was saying, like, the more we discuss about it, the more we are getting into occult practices. Then there is this group samshan sadhana, where a group of persons will be sitting in a circular manner and burning fire over there and chanting mantras and invoking the goddess, concealing certain areas. Bhairavas would come, Bhairavas mean dogs would come barking and raging, trying to break your cell. All these things, like, you have to do it, give the offerings. And then the color of the fire changes and the goddess gets invoked. So there's a lot of power play and the practices that comes when it comes to cremation ground. And these are all levels of sadhana which are practiced in Tantra, and you cannot really ignore them. If you do, you are not really into Tantra. And this new age tantrics who are getting into these things won't be really getting into these things, and they will be like doing the cool part of tantric practice. So this problems being very secretive and very, like, when you are getting into the cremation ground, a person might be doing ritual and it will not be very obvious, but the person who is not the authentic one will be dressing up in a very peculiar manner and doing the rituals. See, the dress up is an aesthetic sense, but your sadhana is very secret. So if you're planning to do sadhana, you won't be dressing up in a way that will be flamboyant and people will figure out, okay, he's a tantric, so let's go and talk with him. He's shouting at the top of his voice, throwing something on the fire. So these people are tending to draw a lot of attention in circles, and people go there in the samshans and then they see them and they think, oh, I have seen a tantric. So it's not that. The tantric people will be very secretive over there. So what happens when a scholar is coming, and Kamakya temple Ambavachi, so there was this one South Indian Aghori who is clearly questionable in his status of Aghori, and He will be sitting there with all this red sindoor and everything smeared with human skulls all around, with great jata, and the entire research team will be going directly there. There will be tantrics who will be there, not asking them. The entire team is there, and they will be like having the video cameras and everything. Okay, this guy is cutting a goat, putting the goat up above Kali, draining the entire blood, which is not a tantric ritual. God knows from where he got those rituals, and bathing Kali in blood, bathing Kali in bathing Kali in this thing, then draining alcohol over Kali, jumping around like a mad person. So this person must be a very good tantric. So this is what the usual impression happens, and they get the evidence over there because they're literally clueless and completely uninitiated into tantra, or maybe just basic initiated into tantra, and they start discussing about tantra like a confident expert, getting the sources from very wrong and fraudulent places, and then, my god, you won't imagine what would come up. And just imagine the things that would come up, very exotic, very weird theories. And then what happens, like if you're planning to research in tantra, if you're planning to do something in tantra, what is the right way to get it? The only right way to get in is to get into a proper gurukula. It will be very boring, it will be very hectic. You have to undergo the sadhana. You cannot do it like, okay, I've got initiation, that means I have the entire understanding of the secrets. No, your guru will, like, you have to keep the vow of secrets, you have to learn. So this problem becomes severe because we start to read scholars in India also. In Indians certainly have started reading scholars from abroad because the research is done seriously, but again, they are not really initiated, so they come up with weird theories. While we had great scholars like Gopinath Kaviraj and Brajavallabh Dwivedi who were teaching them, while they may not have really like imagined that teaching them would go to this way wrong, that the next generation won't be studying it and will only be reading through tertiary sources or the direct primary sources without really verifying the actual sources, how it is done, or talking with the tantrics. And then a lot of them would actually come up with, I don't mean every one of them, there are a lot of scholars who are actually properly initiated and who are properly working on it by going through it. Like there's a lot of very good work going on in abroad. But again, because of this esoteric part, you really need someone who is an inside person to constantly verify things, and not an insider will be able to tell you everything. So you don't really go jumping around. You have to be patient to understand what happens, because by reading books, you really don't get to know Tantra. By reading the ritual books also, you don't get to know Tantra, because that is another problem that is happening here, because people are getting the mantras, and the mantra fetish is a new problem. And people get to read a lot of ritual books and say that I know this ritual, I know that ritual. That does not help. So what really gets you into Tantra is your practice. So once you start doing the ritual by knowing the inside secret, so there is something known as Bahirjag and Antarjag. Bahirjag is the external ritual, the Antarjag is the internal ritual. So when you start with the Antarjag, the Kola sadhana, and this Kundalini starts rising, you do the Chakra Veda and everything, and you have the experience of this entire ecstasy. You start getting the idea of the tattvas that are discussed there, the theories that are discussed there. And this is one of the reasons why we really love Gopinath Kaviraj, why we really love Swami Lakshmanju, why we really love reading sadhakas like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, like the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is available in English. Lakshmanju, when it comes to Lakshmanju, just a minute. If you are an absolutely uninitiated person practicing yoga and reading Lakshmanju, well, it can give you some insights into certain yogic practice, but it won't really give you insights into tantric ritual practice. He was a great guru, and he did a lot of teachings of texts and clarified it. But again, it is not the only interpretation that exists in Tantra. There are so many layers and layers of interpretation. And Gopinath Kaviraj is a bit difficult to study unless you are well versed in Indian philosophical systems and you understand Achinta Veda Ved, Shakta, Trika, all these systems very well, and get the background of Samkhya, Nyaya, all these schools. So he was an exceptional genius. And as I was saying, that the other part is that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's Gospel of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa There's some books in Bengali, I don't know if had it been translated, Lila Prasanga, has depictions of his own practices and teachings of the Shakta philosophy. There are some books on Shakta philosophy like Shakta and Tarangiri, others, like which do depict the Shakta philosophy and things, but this philosophies, reading the philosophies really don't give you a direct experience as you might by going into the sadhana. And that is where the clarity comes, because the more you read, it will get really stressful for your head. Like it sounds very unacademic, but this is a real problem. Even I face that you may read lots and lots, and you have to work really hard to get the links. You cannot place it. You have to draw a chart like, okay, this means this. Then probably this is coming from that system. But the more you get insight into Tantra, like by just not by the rituals, I mean by the yogic practices, the more you find that, okay, the practice of Vajrayana is not very different from here. Or like what happened with me is that I started training with Western occultists, some serious Western occultists, not New Age ones. And teachers who started training me were actually into the different forms of Western practices like Goetia, Thelma. They were practicing Crowley's magic. They were some were from Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn, some were from Kabbalah, of them were into Orphic practices, some were into voodoo. So this big circle of different cultures of occultists and esotericists actually gave us a lot of light in how this is similar. So what exactly is happening is these people, including the Vedic practitioners, are trying to understand certain things that is known as in Trika, they call it Spanda Tattva, the very primordial pulsation, the very reality that has been concealed by very different ways. What is more closer to get into it than to enter Shakti or magic? The word magic basically means the energy, the power that surrounds us entirely. It's not the mumbo jumbo if you're thinking about. Again, the mumbo jumbo is a problem that is politically incorrect because the word mumbo basically indicates the head priests of voodoo. And voodoo and hoodoo has the African magic has been sabotaged by certain religious internal politics that some now you can get it right now that there are certain religious groups which don't really agree, and literally they are having a crusades among themselves and they're trying to destroy the pagan cultures, and it becomes very selective, and the selective things gets into the agenda becomes something prominent in academia, something prominent in their policies. So for example, let us talk about animal sacrifices. PETA is very concerned about animal sacrifices in Hindu ritual, but there are like that the amount of messes that is going to happen if you like. I won't get very political or it would sound very particular religious phobic, but again I have to say it is the other way. Like there is so much of animal sacrifice done during the period of Ramadan, and it is a part of their ritual. Like, but again, there is animal sacrifice that is done in the time of Kali Puja or Durga Puja. Now, certain organizations will be jumping into because it's very secular to attack Hindu sentiments, and they won't really do, and they will be like concerned about, oh, this is Ramadan, you don't do it. And election campaigns and other things when you will have things people shouting at the top of their voices, destroying the sleep of everyone in the city. But when it comes to Diwali, you find a lot of problems happening, and you really, as I was saying, that you see that how Ganges gets polluted by merging the idols, and this is a big protest that will be done by NGOs. You should not merge the idols in Ganges. This is the reason of popular pollution. Well, we have been immersing idols in Ganges for last thousands of years, like 1,000 years or so, and Ganges was not polluted then. It suddenly started getting polluted now. The problem is basically more serious. It's because of industrial untreated waste, which is not being addressed because money is involved. And you dump flowers in Ganges, that is considered to be inauspicious because, like, inauspicious according to NGO, not to religious people. And all this will face protests. But there will be no control over the plastic producing companies. So, like, just a minute. Yeah. So as I was saying, what happens is certain religious functions get selectively addressed. I do get it that Diwali has a lot of pollution in areas like Delhi, but there are certain restrictions that could be put over there. Like we had eco-friendly crackers, which was allowed, but you see the problem of crackers, how it happened. In India, we have a so-called Hindutva government, and there is this popular myth that Hindus are having a great deal of advantage, which is a great lie. It's not so. It's a lot of political agenda going on. So in Diwali, there is a because of pandemic, a lot of livelihood was lost, and a lot of economic struggles are going on. Prices are increasing like anything. Now, there's a large section of Indian society which depends on production of firecrackers. Now, what the government was planning is to put a ban on firecrackers. So like Diwali will be happening in say 14th of November, and uh, to prepare firecrackers we need a preparation for 6 months or 3 months because it's seasonal. You have to do many things. So people did not get to produce firecrackers, or they had to destroy the firecrackers because with a loss that runs in billions. Okay, because it's a $1 billion industry. And you can just check the statistics online. I don't know how where it's available. There are websites where you can check. And just 3 days before Diwali, they declared that okay, you can sell the firecrackers if it's green firecrackers. And by that time, firecrackers have been destroyed, the livelihoods have been destroyed, and green firecrackers are not really available. And in 3 days, you really don't get it. So a lot of damage did happen like that. Same in Holi, like we have somewhat been prepared, like this was a first year disaster, and there's so much less planning that you cannot imagine. So in the first Holi, what happened that we have started using flower based Holi colors instead of synthetic, which is fine. But now during Holi, you will find people coming up and there will be this pro secular ads, which will be showing that Holi will be a festival which will be like a Muslim person will be protected, or a Hindu person, woman marrying a Muslim man. Like there were these subtle tendencies of being progressive, which actually harm the culture more than it, because they are not really aware of the history, how things have unfolded, how things have been destroyed, and it creates a lot of mess. Similarly, this is a thing of Tantra as well, because in cinemas you get to a very particular depiction. Just a minute again, okay, I have to just say something. So this problem of depicting religion becomes more subtle. Like you see in any movies of the West, you will see that witches are being portrayed as the bad ones, the idea of black magic. Now, this black magic has a very interesting politics involved. As I was saying, that the voodoo, it's a selective kind of attack that has been done. The voodoo or African magic, the word mambo jumbo, mambo being the high priests of Africa, they're basically black. So you see the color politics. The white magic is something that is very Christian, very refined, very holy, with white color involved, and black magic is something that's very dark, that's done in the night, that involves some dark use of powers. Well, and the color politics would get involved over here. Even in India, like it's sad that Tantra becomes something that is practices heteropraxis. So the image of Tantra and Aghoris mainly, like Tantrics not that terrible, Aghoris pictured in a very terrible manner. The word Aghor means the high state of your experience. So an Aghori is someone who is into their high state of practice. They're trying to reach the high state of experience, that is being one with Shiva. So the Aghoris will be portrayed that, okay, these Aghoris are having human skulls, because having human skulls is a big part of Tantra. You will see many Tantric temples having human skulls because that is considered to be a seat of goddess, one of the greatest seat of goddess. And they will be picturing it to be something known as the seat of ghosts and demons and entities who are evil, because skull is imagined to be evil and it becomes evil in certain cultures. So this cultural appropriation, which happens from being an outsider or the other, and that others starts to reimagine and repicture a particular culture like a tantric culture, and they start depicting it. And this depiction gets even worse when it comes to our mass media, because media is a medium of brainwashing in masses, like if you think of it subtly. And this is also a theory, right? How media regulates, I think 84, I don't really remember who is the thinker. So how media regulates the mind. So the most popular depictions in West you will see is the witches are bad, who do bad things, who do dark things, and there are priests who are good, who are coming here to save you. So what happens, because witches and hoodoo practitioners are basically powerful, they're closer to God, and they're practicing these things, and they basically get, like, through very subtle politics of inter-religious conflicts and conversion, they basically try to explain you that there is this one figure, Satan, who is seen to be evil, like Lucifer, Satan, in a particular religious culture, because they have a strict polarity of good and evil. So there are these demonic entities who will pull you to hell, we will harm you. And what is a better way to put it in your mind than put it in movies? You have so many movies where exorcism is done by a Christian priest and Satanist people are being removed. And you really think that those things are really bad. Now, this is basically demonization of a culture. Now, there are cultures where such practices are actually practiced because they believe in a very different kind of reality than you do. And we often tend to miss the politics that is involved in that. Same as in Tantra, like a Tantra, because you see, I'm wearing a mala that is representing human skulls. Human skulls for me is very pure because human skulls represent the very varnas of God, the reality, the matrika varnas. It's what we will be reduced to, the very bare essence. The bare essence being the 51 matrika letters, and this is a mala 51 matrika letters. So this to us represents the very reality, while for someone else it might represent to be something else. So understanding the perspective of others get distorted through mass media. And what I'm trying to say is there's this huge politics involved within the mass media as well. That certain religious group is trying to say that this group is bad. To get beyond this brainwashing is something very difficult and something that we need to fight and struggle about. And this cannot be done because unless everyone, like, this is not just a problem of India, this is a survival of pagan culture, and Hindu is the one of the last pagan cultures surviving. And the Christianization of Hindu or the Islamization of Hindu is also a thing that where, like, we have within our texts, which were composed later on after invasions from other countries, where we have statements like homosexuality becomes a crime, which was not the case in the ancient times. Sexuality becomes an issue. Right now, a lot of drama is happening because of sexuality, because of many things. We have places of Tantra and esoteric importance like Sabarimala, where a lot of fight happened on as to as a menstruating woman will be allowed to go or not. And finally, the person who broke the vote was not a Bhakta of Sabarimala, as it was popularly projected in like many media, but some media actually reported it was actually a Muslim lady who had absolutely no respect or no interest in Sabarimala, but just to break the culture to prove a point, which will be very rebellious for certain political sections. And then she would immediately come and praise about burqas, how certain Islamic practices are great, but certain other religions are regressive. Then how you should eat gomata fry. Like, she literally said that gomata fry because it would directly attack the sentiments of Hindu, because Hindus consider cow to be very pure. There's this Kamdhenu concept and other concepts where go is also considered to be the Vedas. So she would be saying those things because she basically does not respect the religion. It's just to publicize a political agenda, but no menstruating woman bhakta actually got into Sabarimala because they really knew that this is something that goes against their actual beliefs. This is the respect of, we really don't go into occult things and do your practice. It's like operating an electric machine, like a power grid, without actually taking the precautions and knowing how it is to be done. And the question of menstruation, when it came up, the question of menstruation is very important in Tantra, because it indicates fertility. One, it's not considered to be impure, but the idea of persons menstruating moment taking rest while others are taking care, like they were not allowed to get into temples, is not the only thing. That's the only thing that is projected. But I have been with Orthodox Brahmins, that a menstruating woman during her periods was basically made to rest. They should not be getting into kitchen as well. It's not because they were considered impure. There were two factors playing. One, it's primary, that they could see the woman fluctuating in their mood, and it was difficult for them to work with all those medical biological conditions. I'm not going into that. So they realized that it's a period when they should take rest. Now let's come into the Western context. When the religious people are talking about giving rest to a menstruating woman, or worshipping the menstruating woman as something pure and capable of producing, like, is the fertility that is being worshipped in Tantra, because it's the very fertility that will give birth. So it's considered to be a great sacred river, that because the woman's womb, the great sacred river is located, and through that river do we go in the reverse order of creation. All these things are there in Tantra. But at the same time, in the Hindu culture, the menstruating woman is not impure, but someone who needs rest. That is what it is considered, because it could get really uncomfortable for her, because they were not having external work, but even the housework is very hectic for that lady. So it's better to be taken care by someone else. Now, this becomes very regressive for some people. Again, the same menstruating woman, when they demand, like, had it been in Hindu law, by the rules, a working menstruating woman should be having leave and not be coming, because it should be considered a period of leave when she could rest and she could recover. Like, there are a number of days which they are not allowed to come, and there are a number of days. And it has got a lot to do with how Ayurveda used to see it, and currently medicine, like, people do seek leave because of that thing. But that again seems progressive, because it's done through a more feminist radical perspective than a religious perspective. So see the same problem, the same address, like a woman seeking leave during that time and a woman given leave. A woman seeking leave not getting is considered to be regressive, but a woman given leave naturally is considered to be regressive. So you are trying to make people understand the necessity of it, but the same politics, when it comes into a religious perspective, a particular religion, becomes very repressive. Again, when it comes to dress codes, like there's something which we call sindura, which a woman wears in the, and sakapala, like this thing they wear in the heart. These are marks of a married woman. So we recently had a lot of drama about how a woman is to be treated, or how like the question of treating a woman bad or good was not the problem, but something as Kanyadan was happened, and if the person who wrote the article on it, who debated on the very recent nonsense that is going on, can come up, will be good. So the Bhairavi and others' ideas was think that we are materializing or objectifying it, but it was not the case. Like, when we are giving power to a woman, as in Tantra, the matriarchal Tantra, where the Bhairavi, who has the rights to go to and control hundreds of Bhairavas, like the men, could be considered regressive by just twisting the interpretation a bit, that a woman becomes the object of satisfaction for hundreds of men, and they try to ruin it. But at the same time, the very regressive ideas which are there in other religious systems, I'm not mentioning the name of religious, like certain dress codes of covering up, certain tortures of a woman. I've seen women getting burned for just out speaking of, or getting stoned. That you cannot protest because it's not so secular. So the idea that how the media gets regulated into depicting certain as demonic, certain as evil, something as regressive, has got a lot to do, if you ask me, with how the funds and from where the funds are coming. With any propaganda you find, you have to put into the funds. And Tantra getting distorted is a new age problem. Like whenever I say I'm a tantric, people will be like, so do you give massages? So no, it's not Tantra. It's something nonsense. Or someone who has done a PhD and published something on Kundalini, claiming to be someone who has been initiated by God or blah, blah, blah. As I said, wonderful, but you have not been initiated properly. Would run courses with charging havoc money. So none of this is Tantra, none of this is authentic. So anyone who is looking forward to it, as a summation of my lecture, I would say, try to go to this place, roam around, try to do a bit of research, try to understand what that culture is saying, like in front of thinking that something is demonic, something whenever it's projected to be bad, even the idea of devil, try to understand from where it is coming, what were the pre-religions present, and how it has been projected to be bad. Because when the British first come to India, the pictures they painted of India, they were pretty scared. They were not acquainted with seeing a boar-headed god or a lion-headed god tearing someone. They thought that this must be something very demonic that they're doing. But it took research to understand how it actually is. So similarly, the idea of Tantra and Shakta Tantra is still shredded in a lot of mystery and a lot of disbelief and a lot of agenda politics. It's better when we are trying to understand something to keep away from comparison, to keep away from all these agendas and trying to understand it as it is. And the philosophical understanding and understanding the development of a history of idea, the history of intellectual development of history, the interaction, the ritual, it's a holistic study. It's not just one study. And instead of reading hundreds of books, you have to get into the sadhana practice. That matters. That matters in understanding how. And the first and the most important code of Tantra is secrecy. Matri Yonivat Gupta, like the mothers, whom you have to just, you have to keep it secret. You don't go out telling people that these are the codes of Tantra, these are the mantras of Tantra, these are the practices that we do. This is, see, I'm reading a book, I'm telling you, you have to join me. You can give me some donations and I'm this big scholar, I have this published. Or I have been initiated by, yeah, there's something like you will find people like internet also. My Guru Parampara is, I have been initiated by the great Mahavatar Babaji. Well, if they're talking about Mahavatar Babaji and if they're not from Kriya Yoga, you have absolute right to question that because that is a system of Kriya Yoga. If they're talking of Gorakshanath, if they're not talking of yoga or Kanphata sannyasins having this earring over here and their yogic practices, you have a right to question that. So be specific, try to understand what they are doing. And if they're talking about Kaulachara, if they're talking about left-hand part, if they're talking about Tantra, and they're absolutely clueless about how a puja is done, how a chakra is to be worshipped, how may not be going into cremation ground. That's not absolutely necessary. But the tantric puja with the tantric codes, the tantric chakra anushtana over the body, the tantric secret circle practices, the tantric mantra revealing. If someone is telling you the mantras in a group and then sitting in circles and chanting like, say, the bija of Kali and then Kalyai Namaha, and just be absolutely sure that they are cheating you. And if they are saying that, see, we are doing Durga Bhairavi Puja, you come to here with Tantra, we will teach you physical Hatha yogas like Surya Namaskar and all those things. See, yoga goes parallelly. You have to learn yoga to be fit. But in Tantra, they don't go there that you will do so many beautiful postures and all these things. No, it is all about worshipping the goddess and how she is to be worshipping, how she is to be pleased, and how you become one with goddess. That's all I would like to say. And I would do the Guru Vandana again this time. Agadha samshayam bodhi samuttarana tarinim vande vichitrarthapadam chitram tam Guru Bharatim. Thank you.